because I thought you had just a technical problem and that could not be interesting, but it was already regarding the project. So, okay, we're live on YouTube and we were just reviewing the first steps of our participants. So, coming back to the principle, like I said, with a lot more time on your hands, the most sensible thing to do is try to get an in-depth knowledge of the system that you're building, because then you can take control and make more, put more awareness in your choices. Given that we have a very, very limited time, I would feel like suggesting, okay, yeah, do that, but already make a choice of narrowing it down to a few options. Okay. Not too many options, because otherwise you're going to spend an entire afternoon of testing and you're still going to be at step 0, step 1. So, you know, to some extent, if you're aiming for design, it's much more about refining the use of a limited set of tools rather than gaining an extended knowledge on the whole tool. When you have to do a trade because time is tight, in the end, if you get too extensive, there is an expression called spreading yourself too thin, like butter on a piece of bread, right? So yeah, you extend your knowledge, but then you have to put it to work. And the step between the analytic phase, when you gain knowledge of your system, and the operational phase, when you put that knowledge to work, is not that automatic. You need it's better if you take a limited amount of these possibilities, and then you start playing with it, rather than just keep analyzing the things at this stage, because then you understand better how you can put the things together in more than one way. You start playing in more than one way with the same set, and you realize that you can get a lot more in terms of design this way, rather than trying to expand your palette of possibilities. Remember, when there's something called the tyranny of choice, because when you have too many choices to make, or you have to make a choice between too many options, or a range of options that is too big, the choice becomes increasingly difficult. So, operationally speaking, it's better that you have like 3 or 4 moves, but then you can build up sequence of these moves, rather than have like 100 moves and it takes you forever to choose what is the right move to do, or the move that you want to do at that point in time. It's a choice of agility rather than depth in knowledge in this case. And I would feel like suggesting go for agility, because then it will make the refining of your project, like retracing your step, improving a lot easier in a tight period of time. Again, if you have more time, of course, the most sensible thing to do would be, yeah, let's get to know the system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So, who is in group with you, Sarab?
No, Alberto.
Sorry, Shermin. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alberto?
Yeah.
Yes.
Here.
Do you have anything on your own?
Yes. It's another option over the same stuff, but I can share you if it's possible.
Yeah. Let me make you co-host so you can share.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Perfect. I'll share screen. No, here.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Well, let's reset this stuff firstly. So trying to get other approach over the same issue of patterns, I create something like this. and then with two different movements, and then playing a little bit with the code, and then proposing 5 handles in each model with the same size. It's possible to get something like this. See if this is working.
Oh, if you hit go, it will probably okay.
Go, yeah.
No, but it should be it should be light enough if you're.
So it's happening something like this. Which at the end is trying to find this idea of patterns and repetitions, but playing with some. Well, in any way, probably is possible to mix this idea with this other with the other one, which is these angles, which is prisms or triangles, and then see. But we must mix all these two codes in a single one. I think. Huh?
Yes, I would feel like at this point, after seeing your contribution, I would feel like giving you a bit more pointers, some more pointers to add something to what I already said to Sherwin. In your case, your component are articulated, but their sense of anisotropy of directionality is not really coming up. It's not really coming forward. You know what I mean? What you get, it's if you switch the visual to object only, so they are all called the same, then you will realize this even better. Just to object. Yeah, wait a second. So you see, it's like this sort of articulated, complex, sort of a Menger sponge kind of object, but you don't see those patterns of directionality emerge because there's little anisotropy in the geometry of the component. So one of the possibilities to activate this kind of anisotropy is changing the proportions. So just think about the bounding box of your component. You make a bounding box of your component. Reaching anisotropy, achieving anisotropy can be done in several ways. But if the connections and the handles basically lead to a sort of cubic grid, that's one thing. The other thing would be considering the bounding box of the component. If the bounding box starts to look like a cube, then most probably, well, depends on the geometry, but most probably the anisotropy, it's not yet there. The fact that all of the angles are 90 degrees also, it's not a fundamental factor, but it adds a little bit. I would say that it could be interesting to add, for instance, stretch in privilege one direction, because then you have rotation. So the directional change will happen during the assemblage. And so the evolution, let's say the spatiality or the spatial quality of the whole thing doesn't depend on the component being very much articulated into space. It's much more up to the process of assemblage. And the other thing could be exactly what Sherwin was trying to do with her components, which is introduce a different angle rather than just 90 degrees. Maybe try, instead of 120 or 60 or a multiple of 30 in this case, to try to use 90 and 45.
Okay.
Right. So you have a different set and see which kind of result you get. So introducing like 45 degrees means introducing some sort of diagonals. Or maybe you can include already diagonals in your component, either at 60 or 120 or 45 degrees. It doesn't matter that much, because then you include those things in the geometry of a component, and then you can maybe control better the connections by positioning the handles. But usually the inclusion of diagonals, for example, in this case, it's really hard to tell what is the rotation of each component.
Yes. It looks like almost
if you have to pick,
always.
you have to pick one. That's another thing, because it's a perceptual value, but then it reflects on the global organization. If you include one diagonal, don't think the diagonal of a cube from one vertex to the diagonal opposite, but the diagonal of a face of a cube.
Mm-hmm.
You immediately can recognize at least the 2 or 3 rotation of the components.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it will create patterns in which you recognize through the rotation of the component a different indication of direction.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay.
Yeah. So if well, trying to develop just one single project, taking the other approach with 40 degrees angles or something like that, like a prism, probably this can change in a much better way. So
I mean, yeah, you have to do some fast experimentation. Keep the geometry very simple so that you can modify it quickly, so that you can make experiment and changes quickly. But it's more important, I mean, to manage these angles in terms of potential for growth and connectivity. Rather than, okay, let's look at the geometry of the component for its face value and only that. Yeah, there is a value in the geometry of the component, but it should also and always be related to the connective capabilities that the component enables.
Perfect.
Or rather, also in this case, or in the other case, another thing that could be interesting is to have a connection that allows you to do accumulation of components. So not just connecting at the extremes, but let's say long strip face with another long strip face, so that they don't just form this very spongy and let's say I can't find the word in English right now. Sorry, it's foamy, kind of foamy aggregate assemblage, but they can also form a lot of denser parts. So you have another possibility to introduce a pattern of variation, this time of variation in density and not just in direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for the feedback.
No problem. No problem. That's my job, basically.
So I'm stopping the sharing screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So who would like to go next now?
I think we can go.
Okay. So are you presenting or is Nora presenting? Anyway, I'm gonna make
first
you
me presenting and then Nora presenting.
Okay. Now I'm making you co-host anyway. Both of you.
Will I have something like a pop-up on my screen?
I don't know, but if you try, yeah, a badge of honor should arrive you in the regular mail in 1 day or so.
That's amazing. Yeah, so we just thought that we will shortly introduce our idea or topic. It is voids, as I mentioned yesterday, that we thought that maybe from designing from the mass of the building and the outside, how it looked like, maybe we'll try to design from the inside spaces, voids or interstitial spaces. So here is coming back to the Persian language of the Christopher Alexander, or looking back at the Salk Institute of Louis Kahn, where you can see there's like normal room spaces, but also interstitial spaces, created different volumes inside. Another reference is Trini's house, the combination of the solids and voids. So this is what we're looking at in our topic. Or one of the art pieces from Gregor Schneider, who created in his house where he was living different rooms as it was on the outside on a layout. So basically he just created a house within the house, creating these weird spaces and intersection of the rooms and windows going into nowhere. So we thought, maybe it's a nice idea to do something creative. Yeah, then you said it's important to see the progress. So we were trying, my first attempt was like almost everything is red. So almost nothing worked. Then at the end, or now in the process, we came to two components. We decided not to go to this Amazon box that you described yesterday and to have like a series of boxes or shipping containers, but instead to try to find a component which would in itself create this space with maybe windows or weird spaces looking outside. So far we're only at the very beginning of testing. We came to the component A, which looks like that, and this part we think that when it combines with the other ones, maybe there will be spaces like a vertical shaft or window or I don't know, hallway, and these are the iteration of the first one. And then there probably would be interesting to combine it with a different one to see how they will arrange. And then from here, Nora will share her screen.
Okay.
Can I do it? Oh, yeah, I can do it right away.
Yeah. I made you all co-host, so you should be able to do it at will.
I hope it won't crash. It's a bit slow. Okay.
I can see. I can see.
Yeah, you can see it?
Yes.
Yes.
So, where is it? Oh, maybe this is not the right one to have. So, yeah. These are the two iterations. So we started with this component, basically. That's how we developed. We cut out an edge and then we add stabs on the sides. Basically, first not to have the definition of a room, just that if we cut out this, we could look down as we just try to think architecturally. So this is the first component. And then next step, we're gonna probably try out with this one, jumping from this to this, and then this B component is this one. So for now, we just started to aggregate it. For now, we have this ones. We're trying to figure out which are the good connections, because actually we want to find connections that when they come together, the parts that they kind of already form a space and not like flat like this. So I don't know if what the right process would be, just to pick a few and then from there on to see to elaborate more rules for disconnections or for the angles. We have here those components. We didn't play around too much, but maybe we can do something with the angles, or like replace the handle for both parts, for both inputs here. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I found the most challenging for us. I found this is actually trying to understand where to put the handles and how.
Yeah.
What is the smartest move for that?
Yeah, that's quite.
Yeah. Nora, can you leave the screen? Just can you minimize Grasshopper and leave zoom in on the heuristic table as much as possible. So
from
maybe type. Can you type in the Rhino command line full screen? Do you know about that command?
Oh, shit, nice.
Just one F. Just one F.
Yeah, I think it's my computer is getting crazy.
Okay, no, just like full screen.
Oh my god.
All right, yeah.
No.
Ooh.
Oh. I didn't touch it.
F you to me. Are you crazy?
Yeah, I did that. Sorry.
No, come on.
I
We're
didn't
just having a
touch.
laugh. Don't worry. Don't worry. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Where do you want
Can
me to? The handles?
The table of heuristics. So all the combinations. Just this part over here. Okay, the small part over here. All right. Yeah. Great. I'm just looking to see if there is something in there. But you're right.
Looking for things like this.
I'm looking. I'll tell you what I'm looking for. I was looking for this guy here. So it's there. Okay. Yeah. You already thought about it, but as you the way you place the handle is the kink on purpose? Is the step on purpose between them, so they are not exactly coplanar?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, it's interesting because I think in your case there is a lot of selections and tests that you have to do with the handle placement. So can you make a little white space in the screen so that I can sketch there? Just okay. That's quite okay.
Or did you want close to the component?
No. That's fine. What I'm saying is you have let's see the things in plan for a little bit. So you have your let's say complementary component that can do this also, right? So if you shift a little bit something to this side, what you can get is let me see, is a little gap in there, right?
Yeah.
And then when you assemble the rest will start from here and make some other gaps. And then you can see how it works in the third dimension with an additional rotation of the components. And start making assemblages just by filtering some rules, but trying to go on and maybe see if they react to a vector field, or even do it in stages, which is use a single or a couple of rules that work well together for a certain stage of building the assemblage, then save it, then load it as a previous assemblage and use a different set of rules.
Okay.
And try so that you can differentiate the areas. You can grow in stages or grow in parts. It's up to you. So you gain a little bit confidence with this. It's going to be interesting also because then you might also have the possibility. I would also have the possibility of, I don't know, that may be too much. No, that may be too much. So let's see how we go from here with this.
What is it?
I was just speaking my mind aloud, which was the basic idea was what if you had like a third component which was just a single slab.
Yeah.
But then you place some handles of a certain type just for this guy here. You know, you have like a type 3 handle, or I don't know how many types you have already. But you basically have just a type 3 handle, and these guys are just type 3 handles. So at some point when you assemble things, you can put also this thing. Or you can have placeholders in the component and add this sort of element as a post-processing thing. So you can locate areas, enhance density, or do some sort of post-processing operation that will. Oh yeah, another thing. Sorry, another thing that came to my mind is that, and this is something that I'm not seeing here, to allow the components to accumulate. flat face over flat face.
Yeah. True, we didn't put the handles on the top.
So yeah, let's say that you have this object. I'm simplifying things a bit, okay? That's not your component, but it's just for demonstration. Let's say that you allow another object to do this. And behind the back of the other is something like this. So they basically can stack up one over another.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes, of course, you're working still on the void, but you allow also the accumulation of material that can sensibly alter the perception of the void. And then you can play with how much, by placing the handle, you let the things slide into each other.
Yeah, and also to create steps and other like heights.
Yeah, or think
about
this thing that can also be turned completely upside down, and this can be part of the ceiling, and this can be part of some sort of load-bearing wall.
Yes. Yeah.
That's cool. Thanks.
But do you feel we need the second component that we decided on, or can we just work with only one and slab, or just with?
I would personally, since you have a lot of, like I said before, I mean, the suggestion I gave to Sherman before, I think it's a good, it's worth extending to everybody. Normally, with a lot more time on our hands, I would say, okay, let's explore this system in depth. But I would say in a short time, the most let's say the most successful strategy is to start as simple as stupid as it gets. So if you're undecided between one or two components, because you have a lot of other options, one component. So you simplify the problem and you can focus on something else. Okay. Then if you gain quickly the confidence to work with the rest of the options, you can, okay, let's try to see if I can introduce something. But then you have more awareness of the possibilities of the single component. So you also become more selective and more spot on when you you make more aware choices, the more you narrow down the field.
Yes.
Okay.
And do you have a tip how to really fast and smart place all the handles?
No, not so much. I mean, it's not. You're already on a good path on placement. But think about exactly what I said. Just start. You can start with the obvious, and then you can start by playing with this offsetting or sliding the parts one way or another, or using the spots that you have. For instance, let's say the spots that you have on the edges, so that you allow yourself to use also the thickness of the components to connect to the edge. So you have, let's say, in sections, so you have situations like this one. And this will, you get this one by placing the handles in this position, like half of the thickness in from the border. And then according to the position, you can have your elements that go completely coincident, or again, you can slide them a little bit one way or another so that they are basically almost suspended, and when something else comes in that doesn't conflict, they might be complemented by something else.
Great.
Oh, is the screen frozen? No.
No.
Sorry.
No, you can move around. I mean,
you didn't sketch anything more.
I didn't sketch anything.
Oh,
no,
okay, sorry. Sorry, I'm getting a mini heart attack. Okay. Very good. Okay, we got it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome. All right, so we're missing Jan and Alexandra and Andrea and Sarab and Wei. So who's going to go next?
Jan, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, we just continue what we show you this morning. So yeah, I'm still working on the micro scale, and Jan is working more on the macro scale. So I will just show you very quickly what I have now. It's not very different that yeah, here you see. So I just scaled down a little bit my main component, and I tried to add some 45 degrees angles in the pipe connections. I also increased a bit the size of the, not a bit, but a lot, the size of the bars, the big straight bars. And yeah, so now here I modified a little bit my vector field in order to here to have some here it's on the x-axis, then it became random, and then it became it goes on the z-axis in order to make some interfaces with some other blocks or the same.
Alexander, can you just hold for a second?
Yeah.
Just one quick technical suggestion. So I think your field has a resolution that is way too high.
Yeah,
you can reduce the resolution. Okay, you can make it with a lot less points.
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah.
Okay. Just this.
Yeah. And then I just tried to see how two of these blocks can connect. So because of the density, the crazy density of the thing, we don't see any problem at the interface in the middle here. But now I'm really, I really want to manage a bit more the density, and then with what Jan will say just after, we will have some, we'll see with some more oriented blocks, like profiles that can go this way, or with some angles but this is more of Jan's work, this part. And so yeah, I think I still have a lot. Yeah, I have one problem, is that I cannot use the human plugin. I cannot select manually the
you know what? The selected preview.
Yeah.
Double click on the lock. You have to, sorry, this is something that maybe I forgot to say, but I think you also have to enable the preview on that component.
This, like this?
Yes, you should be able to select now.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay, and so
no, but I also noticed that it might be that sometimes when you open a definition, that component is flashing red. In that case, you have to substitute it with a new instance of the same component. You just drag it from the Grasshopper interface, reconnect it, and with the new component, you should be good to go, in case that happens.
Okay, I see. So now, yeah, because I have...
Yeah, no, maybe, no, I think I mentioned that you have to enable the preview, but I mentioned it pretty fast, and it might have gotten lost in the streaming.
Okay.
Don't worry, it's okay.
So this will be a way for me to manage the because I have a crazy number of combination, and
yes.
So I will try to drastically reduce that. And
do you have a lot of rotations in? Do you have a lot of rotations in there?
Yeah.
By any chance?
Yeah, I have too many. Not always, but depends of the block actually.
Because if the block have at least for two axes of symmetry, two central axes of symmetry, it basically you can keep the rotation at 0.
Yeah.
That
Or I
will
can just also
no. Try to because the symmetry can cause you some troubles, because in some cases it might be that the symmetry filters out the possibility of a component to be a receiver, and then one component becomes only a sender.
Okay.
This is something that I realized, so I have to improve this kind of symmetry filter. The first part where I would act, if I were you, would be into reducing the number of rotation to the bare essential, or to something that actually really makes a difference. Because otherwise, you will notice that you have a lot of identical combinations.
Yeah. Here I see I have all the lot.
Yeah, these are all the rotation of 90 and 180 degrees on a square figure, so it doesn't change anything. Right?
Yeah, but just a question about that. For example, this on this connection here, should I keep different levels of rotation or not? Because this can be oriented in different ways and it will change.
Yeah,
but,
I think there you have like 3 rotation that make a difference.
How many?
Probably 3, 0, 90, and 180.
Okay.
Because then you will have, I think so. But you could make a different type of handle for that, or just give, same type of handle, but just give those rotation to those handles in that kind of component. I mean, the stick, I would really keep the rotation of the stick to 0 degrees in both.
I kept 0 degree here.
Okay. Okay, so you know what? Probably a good idea would be to make 2 different handle types in the same position. So one handle type is for the connection of the T-shaped components to the other T-shaped components, and then you enable the rotations. And the other handle type is just for the stick, where the rotation actually do not count.
Okay.
So that would, I think that would solve the problem of redundancy in all the combination, because otherwise you're like literally looking for the needle in a haystack, like almost literally.
Yeah, I agree, it's too much. So yeah, this is, I think for me, this will be all. Yeah, just some quick references if needed. But it was about, I had this kind of pictures in mind. Like, why it doesn't?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe Jan, you want to?
Yes, I would like to see also if Jan has something. Then I will make a commentary on both of you.
Okay, I will share the screen with the Grasshopper and Rhino. So I shifted from the linear elements, which I tried to explore because actually I want to make the space for Alexander's elements. So as Alexander showed these red boxes, I am now like developing the language of those boxes. And I actually took one step, maybe that's the procrastination part, but I wanted to get the sense of what kind of spaces I can generate with different objects. So I parameterized the boxes. I can change the proportions of them and some angles and stuff. and then I managed to populate make the assembly. So, for example, here I can see it creates something like slabs. If I change the proportions, to something more more like a boxes. Then it has a different character, and I want to use this tool to create, yeah, just to create interesting spaces for those pipes which Alexander is designing. So far, it has not much sense in terms of connectivity, so I'm going to stop this exploration and focus more on really precisely designing the handles and stuff. But so far, that's what I got, and I can also show the reference. Let me change the screen, maybe if that works. How do I change the screen? Yeah. Second. Can you see the image?
No, maybe you're just sharing the Rhino window and not your screen. I'm still seeing Rhino and Grasshopper.
Okay, and now?
So if you share, look if you see screen something. Okay, now I see the picture.
Yeah. So the idea is that there are some denser areas. So eventually I would like for each object of mine to create some kind of a value for Alexander. So then he can populate it dense or less dense or more dense based on this value. So I want to create this generic structure. Maybe play with the transparency. I'm not that sure if I can manage, but then the density will be added by the detail of Alexander. So that's for me, I guess, the progress.
Just to add a little bit about the density that you said, we said when we were speaking together that maybe for my part, I could have several versions of the same assemblage. And then when Jan is doing his own big assemblage, we can then dispatch some instance of the blocks according to, I don't know, attractor points or things like that, to replace the global geometry which he designed, and with one of my different version that is maybe very dense, a little dense, and very light, things like that.
Yeah. Okay, that's along the line of also what I had in mind when you did the proposals. Can either of you, it doesn't matter, share the screen with a sort of a blank screen so I can sketch like on a canvas? Because otherwise I cannot share from my tablet and sketch on it. Otherwise I would do that. So it's just maybe an empty part of the RAM. That's perfect. That's okay. That's fine. Okay. So since given the image that you showed of the Centre Pompidou, that was something that I would like to suggest. But if you want to go for that kind of thing, it could be interesting also to add both scale and hierarchy to the system. So one of the possibilities would be, let's say that, consider that this could be, let's say, a scaffold or a placeholder for one of the volumes that Jan is working on, right? So the system should work inside this. One of the possible ideas would be to start with experimenting with a few but large-scale objects that they don't have to be too many, but really like a number around the 10th or something. So you create different versions that have different possible handles, or you try to do something that as much as possible doesn't have too many elements, but has connection points that then can be used and be modular with other objects that stay on the same side. So in the end, you have, let's say, a macro object, and you can place some handles to say, okay, this is the row configuration, and if we have the handles, it doesn't matter what happens in here. We have the possibility of connectivity right here. But depending on what we decide to put inside the object, something will connect, something else will not connect. But instead of like a huge cloud of stuff, you have fewer elements, but larger. So if so far, let's say that your stick is something like this, you can design also another element, which is a larger pipe that has a larger section. Up to you how much contrast you want to introduce into the difference in section. And then you can design intermediate components that handle the change of section from one size to the other, because then when Jan tries the volumetric assemblages, you can start by placing the, let's say, the rough big pipes, which will have all these possible position for adding joints. And then once you have part of the assemblage, you can start populating it with more or less dense assemblages of the smaller parts of these. Do you get what I mean? And then you can work in density locally. Let's say you drive density through a field, through a scalar field, through a vector field. But then you maintain the possibility of enabling a combinatorial assemblage of larger elements that will then acquire even more differentiation when you start populating it around with the smaller ones. So technically, you can have the first set of heuristics and pieces that are the larger assemblies, the larger pieces. Once you have laid those in place, you can start from those as a previous assemblage, and then you add to the set and you work with the smaller ones, rules that only involve the smaller ones, and these components to transition from one scale to another. Mm. So you don't add any more large elements, but you use the large elements as a basis, as a placeholder to start the other densification in smaller scale. So you work in hierarchies in your structure.
Okay, yeah.
Those will be like some sort of a frustum geometry right now. Literally something like this.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I see, yeah. Okay.
From a bigger square section to a smaller square section.
And just okay, no. The thing is, just a question. Everything that is in red for you, it's Jan who is designing this.
Oh, no. Jan is designing the volume in black. And then, of course, he can help you designing also the things in red. Sorry. Also, let's say, let me use just the green. This one, the smaller one is in red, but it should be another color because it's a different hierarchy. Okay.
Okay. No, I think I understand you. Yeah.
I'm out of colors. I have just 4. Sorry.
Okay, no, but okay. It's right. Yeah,
That's
it
okay.
goes in the way we wanted to do. So I think it's
so because the idea is that the basic idea is to try to capitalize on the fact that these objects that you design with the rough initial few large pieces, they can still be modular when you distribute them in the assemblage. So they will form a first, still heterogeneous grid, but based on combinatorics. And then you add another layer of complexity by acting with this additional assemblage of transitional and smaller scale elements that add a further hierarchy, and then you can heavily differentiate things locally. Even with a vector field. So if you want in some places to privilege a lot more diagonal connections starting from these pieces, or more vertical, more horizontal, increase the density, it gives you that intermediate, let's say, placeholder grid of elements that then will be not just, let's say, a regular grid, but a grid that is generated with the assemblage of the larger volume pieces.
Okay.
I mean, you can even design this as a module with the handles for the placeholder. You can even design like 3 or 4, even manually, if you want. They don't have to be especially generated, because then the rest of the thing will be done in the phase where you actually then start the assemblage of the smaller pieces.
I see. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Interesting direction. All right. Who's presenting next?
May I show something?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So I got some pictures, which is I got inspirations from. The game named the Monument Valley. It's also.
All right. Yes, I know it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get 2 components, and so it's like, so when I'm trying to put them together. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing, can you show again the first picture?
First picture, this one?
Yeah, this one. Can you notice anything missing in your components?
The stairs, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this, or even do you know those Indian temple? They were like wells. Then later became also temple. The Indian stairwells or temples.
It's called step
because
well.
They are, yeah. I mean, you know them very, very well, Sarab. I think they are beautiful pieces of architecture for me. It's actually they were one of the inspiration of a topic for 1 year in my course at the university, because they were a very, very interesting intertwining of not just having like a vital access to a vital resource like water, but that became the occasion of building something that extended to social rituals, to to the society, to a lot of a place that were intertwining the access to a necessary resource with the rituals and daily life of the entire society that was gravitating around that part. So I mean, there's an interesting entire development of architectural thinking around that. But also these images and the reference to Monument Valley are very, very interesting in terms of setting the mood for the project. But I think the central element that should be present in at least one of your components is exactly the stairs.
Okay.
Or at least you should use it maybe as an additional geometry, so that you do this sort of post-processing operation of locating the components and then adding, but it should be exactly close to the mood that you are showing with this picture, almost a labyrinth of stairs. Not exactly a labyrinth where like a total labyrinth, or something like the MC Escher picture of stairs coming out of the walls, coming out of the roof in all directions. Okay. But still start with distributing components that already include the stair, or at least they can include it when they have a specific rotation that make the stair being in the right orientation.
Okay.
But there should be a lot, and I think it's interesting also this setup for verticality in a way, right? Oh. If you want to have a lot of stairs, then you have to go for several layers in the vertical direction. Otherwise, you don't enable enough of them to be there to create this.
Okay. So you mean like I needed to, like, in my components, I added stairs on it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just hold it for a second, because okay. I need to sketch something. Stay in this view right now. Okay. So one thing would be, if you look at the picture, there is one element that could really be a sort of a wedge, and little more than a wedge. Yeah. And then you can include the stair right here, right? Okay. And then you have these proportion. This proportion here can really be a cube, so you can attach it in different directions. And this stretch over here, it's up to you if you want to make it like twice of the cube, or make it exactly 45 degrees. I don't know, it's up to you, or another length. And then you might have some other elements that complement this initial element here, so that you can create spaces. Maybe not just stopping here, but maybe having a sort of another element here, so that the block is more something like this. I don't know. This is something that you might have to test and try a little bit, or probably you go for something that it's something like this, and these modularly are like two cubes, but then you can connect them like this, and then the profile can become something like this.
Okay.
I don't know. These are all things that you can try in the design of your components. The other possibility is to keep somehow something like this, or work a little bit, and then add the stairs as let's say a possible additional geometry that you add in post-processing, given certain condition in the assemblage. These are like two possible roads. The goal is, of course, that you get a lot of these guys in there. Actually, the stair become also your ornamental pattern. So you can also search for patterns within the pattern to add the stair once you have your assemblages.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Let me clear here. So we are just missing Andrea and Saraub.
Would you like to comment, Andrea?
Yes. To explain our situation, we were working parallelly. So I was working on the bigger scale with vectors, fields, and direction and bounding box. And to give a reason to have a specific shape of this bounding box, if I can share my screen, yes, I can. We took, first of all, this as a inspiration for the bounding box, but just for the bounding box. And then we wanted to populate it inside with the algorithm. So we need this testing ground. So I built this portion of the Manhattan Island, just to have a real reference how to manage this bounding box. But then when I switched to the things my fellow mate has done today, I encountered this problem that I didn't have this morning, but this was an error that I never saw.
Oh, okay. Look at the heuristics that you're using.
Yeah, I switched. I tried to.
No, look at the names that are in the heuristic.
Here.
And the name that you. No, not this one. Not this one.
Okay.
No, the heuristic string, where you have the list of rules. You see there on your right. On your right. Yeah, here. That one.
Oh, here.
Heuristic rules. You see, you have a component called B.
Yes.
What is the name of your components in this definition?
I don't know.
No, there's a name.
I get it.
Yeah, you see. Yeah, you have to change the name of your components here.
Right.
Because you still have the names called stick and L, while probably he called them A and B.
Here, stick.
Yes, you have to change that to the names. It should be the same name that are in the heuristics, and then the problem will be solved.
B and 0.
Yeah, no, 0 is the handle.
No.
So
A and B, yes.
So yeah, change the other to B, and you should be okay.
Okay. No, this because I didn't manage. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit reset, so it loads the heuristics.
Yeah, it should be okay.
No, but hit reset in the main component.
Ah, yes.
So you should go.
Yes, it's loading. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's working, right?
Not...
No, because you still have because you're not having the right geometries. So you should copy paste the entire first part with the right geometries for your component.
Okay. And then it's Saruba.
Sorry. I have this change problem. I mean, I was testing it with the. I'm sharing my screen parallelly. I was testing it with the vectors and the curve, the scalar, but I'm not able to find out where it is going wrong up to the point that it picks up only the first component that I put, the start object. So for example, here when I put 0, it only picks up the 0 and it multiplies it. And if I take as 1, it just takes that, and I just to show you. Yeah.
How's the heuristics that you're using?
One sec. Oh, shit. I think I killed it. Too many clicks. Okay. So yeah. Where are we? Here. So I saved like this particular heuristic at the moment.
Yeah. Can you notice one thing in the heuristics? I think you actually there is something there. Probably A and B are not compatible because you have a lot of discarded combination for incompatibility. But if you scroll the text of the heuristics, you will see that the heuristic. No, up the text with the rules there. You see that A only goes with A and B only goes with B?
Yeah.
that's the source of the problem. So this is the reason why when you start with one component, it only aggregates more of the same, because there is no rule to switch from one to the other type.
Okay. Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, probably there is. If the two geometries are supposed to be compatible, look at the placement of your handles, because the combination are discarded only if there are compenetrations between the two geometries. So one of the things you have to be careful about is to be very, very precise in modeling.
Okay, so sorry, when is it, I mean, right now the things that I see in red are only because of the clashes, am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
There is collision between the geometry of the two components in the red ones. It's very precise and very sensible. I mean, he is correct, which means that there might be a slight imprecision. I would say that if the two components are supposed to go together well, maybe one of the handle is slightly in and not exactly on the same plane of the mesh face.
Okay, I was under the impression that the pink and the yellow color that I see, it's actually component A and B. I did not give attention to
no, pink and yellow. They you see the colors in the at the bottom center of your screen.
Yeah, it's the sender and receiver color. I get
exactly. It doesn't distinguish by type, just by who's the sender and who's the receiver.
So this is just a modeling precision error problem then at the moment.
I think so. To be sure, I should have a look at the file, but I would put my chips on that.
Should not be a hard one, I hope.
Yeah.
All right. So nevertheless, I mean, although it's not what I wanted to have, the outputs I wanted are actually culled, but when I put the vectors and the scalar on top of it, it develops and I get a little bit of directionality. And the intention was that once Adrian is, I'm sorry, how do I say your name?
Andrea.
Yes, Andrea.
Is done with his test bed, we would try to have a actual test bed and try to come up with something out of it.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me start with this. Andrea, you did model only Manhattan. You didn't model the entire USA. How come? I know you can do better. Come on. No, I'm kidding. I mean, that's really good. I mean, that's way more than you need. But if you're comfortable for that, absolutely no problem.
He happened to have it ready, so we thought we could use it forward. Actually,
okay. Can I ask on demand to have other pieces of other cities if I want? No, I'm just shamelessly asking.
Yes, of course. 200 euros each one.
All right, smart guy. Okay, you know how to market yourself. Great. No, okay. Coming to the center of our topic. That's fine. Once you have set up yourself, you might want to try and combine things together. It's just that it's a little bit unclear to me what is the direction that you want to go for. There's just this mood board image that Andrea showed earlier, but it was more about the bounding box or the sort of what was it? I always confuse those. Is it Super Studio, that one?
Yes, it is.
Super Studio, right? Yeah, because there were similar things by Aimonino at some point.
I had this on as a professor.
You had Aimonino as a professor.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's very interesting. It's now I know why you call that radical architecture. Okay, the reference is very clear there. But
no, the idea was to see how this parametric architecture interact with a real environment in a urban scale. So it's like a superstructure.
Okay. I mean, if you want to, I mean, since we are not bounded by any particular scale constraint in terms of how big you can go, it would be interesting to have a sort of a very, very radical and speculative city-sized project. That would be also scaling the building blocks of your assemblage accordingly, actually. But that could prove actually interesting to test also how far can you go? How big can you stretch the scale of the system, and what sort of things you can obtain? Maybe really enhancing a lot the anisotropy of the elements. Maybe make some elements that are maybe not so tall in one direction, but very long in one direction, and see how they start combining, overlapping, what sort of figures they do, so that you introduce this also sense of both scale and directionality, and at the same time you can have a lot of huge anisotropies in the effect. Either you have a very long and stretched spaces, or very pronounced vertical voids in your system. So don't be afraid to try to exaggerate something, right? It's also part of something that is supposed to or tasks itself with the aim to be radical, to be something different, you know, through excess of something. I found it another very interesting topic. I mean, you have so many diverse direction. I really like this. So, I mean, as a group of participants, there are like 5 pretty different projects, and it's something that I appreciate very much. And I would push for each project to gain its own individual character, so that you know, the system and the means to achieve something might be the same. You might use the same tools, but you put your own approach to it, and your own difference. That could be very interesting. So I encourage you to go on, experiment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, that was about from my side.
Yes, sure. Go on. Or did I don't know. I thought you wanted to say something.
Oh no, that was about it from my side, I said.
Ah, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you had something to add, actually.
No.
But well, no. It's.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not sure if what Andrea said was clear enough. I mean, like we were thinking that we could pick up some kind of neighborhood which has like very varied volumes existing. So let's pick up the edge from the Central Park and the skyline immediate next to it, and the insertion of this whole assemblage that you wanted to do was somehow on that point.
Ah, all right. No, okay. Then I think I got the input in a wrong way. But yeah, go for your idea. But that said, I think part of the things that I said in my comment, I think there still stand. I mean, do not be afraid of pushing boundaries with what you're doing, because sometimes it's exactly going where you haven't tried before that leads you into someplace interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, curious to see your developments then.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, guys, I have a couple of things that I noticed to avoid some possible bugs. One is what Alexander was showing with the manual selection component, which is actually, yes, to do the manual selection, the components should have the preview activated. But like I said before, sometimes it happened to me reopening some definition and that component was red and not working. In this case, if that happens to you, the solution is to erase it, bring a new one from the Grasshopper toolbar and reconnect it in the same way as before, and it should work. Second thing that it's important that I noticed, I think that despite what I was trying to do with the code, it seems that somehow the ID number that you input when you create the assembly object with the component, remember that ID number, that number matters. So when you build your component, give the ID, the numerical value, which is the same order in which you plug in the component in the merge when you create the set. So the first component on top should have ID 0, the second one ID 1, so on and so forth. Because then, especially when I was trying to work with the blocks, I realized that the two components had the same ID, and that created a conflict that stopped the definition from working. So yeah. Also,
and they have to follow themselves. Like you cannot have a break. You cannot, for instance, I didn't
try to make like a 0, 3 or something.
Yeah, it doesn't work. I tried yesterday
it doesn't work.
Just to remove a connection. To remove a connection that was in the middle. Let's say the number 4 of 6 elements, and so going to 3 to 5.
Okay.
It stopped working.
So if you plan to use a larger set, but maybe in one definition you're just using 2 of them, put always all the set in the definition. And then if you want to use like component 0 and component 3, you use just the heuristic that involve those components. But then the heuristic will find the component by name in the catalog. But the catalog should work. I will double check the code, but I think it's too late for this workshop. But yeah, that's a bug that I need to fix, definitely. So that it doesn't.
Does the name in the of the layers matter or not?
No, the name of the components matter. The name of the layer in Rhino, no, it doesn't.
Okay,
if that's what you mean.
But find the linked geometry, the high definition geometry.
You have to reference it yourself, or otherwise, if you want to automate this process a little bit, you can use the geometry pipeline from Grasshopper. I usually tend to do that when dealing with a lot of stuff that you have to modify quickly on the fly, so that you reference automatically what you need. The way the heuristic works, it looks for the component name, the one that you put in the assembly object creation in Grasshopper. Then the order is for building the catalog, so that's why you have to be consecutive. But yeah, definitely it's something that I have to correct, because right now it's really confusing at this point. Yeah, I fixed and corrected and added something to the day 3 material. There is one more post-processing definition that shows you how to have some little panels that are modified with the noise function. But for that, you require some additional plugins if you want to try that. If you want to download them, there's one of those plugins which is really useful, which it's called Impala. Let me write it in the chat. You can find it on Food for Rhino. It basically has the parallelized version of a lot of operation, like addition, subtraction, absolute copy. In many cases, it will dramatically speed up a lot of calculation if you're working with a large number of components. So I suggest that if you can download it and use it in your definitions, especially for post-processing strategies, So just to tell you how fast it is, I was using like the addition. I needed to use the addition component from Grasshopper. The regular one was taking 12 seconds to compute because of the large number of elements. With the addition from Impala, the time shrinked to 1.5 seconds or so. So it is, in many cases, it is actually very, very effective.
I have another question.
Sure.
Regarding the high definition geometry.
Yeah.
Is it a good idea to use block instances instead of pure geometry? Will it lighten the model a little bit?
The Rhino model, yes. I was trying to do that. I don't remember for whatever reason, even using, for instance, Elephant, which is a plugin for Grasshopper that is able to manage blocks. I don't remember. No, I know why I discarded that option. Because when you unpack the block from Rhino, the objects are in a scattered order, and you cannot. They stay just in the order of creation of the block. So you can create. I don't know. Maybe you can probably right now with this workflow, because I was using a different workflow. But definitely in the end, the Rhino model, if you use block, it's definitely lighter. Because the block instances is just writing a string of code instead of copying the entire geometry. So yeah, it should be lighter. So one thing that a little update on our schedule that I was sharing with you this morning, that we will do another review tomorrow morning at 9. One additional tomorrow at 2 p.m. And I would add another one just to, let's say, sort of finalize or show the storyboard for your presentation on Friday morning at 9. Okay, just to quickly check storyboard for the presentation, and I'm getting up a few people for the finals on Friday afternoon. We're gonna do the final presentation Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. not 2 p.m. And yeah, so far so good. So thank you for your effort so far. Oh, somebody's recording. Sarah, are you recording? Because I see recording next there. Remember that recording kills the stream. I hope this didn't kill the stream. You're mute, Sarah.
Sorry, I had no idea I was recording. I don't know. I think it happened perhaps when I was sharing the
Yeah,
screen.
no, I'm not pointing fingers at all. It's just at some point I realized that there was the record, the record icon on. I said, whoa, what happens there? And then I noticed that you were recording. I hope the stream wasn't down, but in any case, I just ask you, your recording should have been saved somewhere. So if you manage to find it, can you please send it me through WeTransfer? So just in case the stream was killed, I could upload it for the YouTubers, just that. It seems like the stream is still up though, so I don't know. Let's see. Because when Shermin the other day started recording, the stream just ended at that point, so I had to upload it from the recordings. Well, in any case, let's hope that the stream wasn't killed. And well, I'll see you tomorrow morning, guys.
Also, just a quick question about the other part, which hasn't been recorded. Is that available somewhere? Is that? I think it's not on the.
Everything is up. Everything is up on the YouTube channel of Codate. All the sessions that we have done.
Oh, okay. It's not YouTube. Okay, cool. I'll check there.
It's not the DigitalFutures YouTube. It's our Code 8 channel on YouTube.
So also the part from Shermin that has been recorded?
Yes,
because this one is not on. Okay,
I
cool.
uploaded it yesterday night. You should look for the playlist DigitalFutures workshop. It's all there.
Ah, very good. Thank you.
Our stream didn't get killed. Lucky enough, everything went fine apparently.
Okay. But just in case, in your own time, but when you can,
I'll do that.
No problem. Just in case something got interrupted, I will check it out myself later. It seems like it's okay right now, but well. All right. Very well, guys. Nice start, and I hope you go on with your effort tomorrow, and hope to see something very nice.
Cool. Thank
Thank you. Looking forward. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See you.